This is Amy Chan from CakeDecoratingSchool.com, and if you like cake decorating, you're in the right place. In this video, we'll be making a set of Camellia-themed cupcakes. It's broken down into steps so you can skip ahead, rewind, and rewatch as desired. We're going to make several colors today for our Camellia Cupcake set, and we're going to start off with a light shade of peach. And we're going to use American-style buttercream. You can use whatever kind you like, as long as you can pipe flowers with it. And the following liquid gel colors: neon bright pink, red, sunset orange, lemon yellow, and finally some royal blue. To get us started, we're going to make a light shade of peach, and we've got those first three colors out on our little lid here. We're going to just do a couple of specks. Start out with our pink, get in a little red, and a little sunset orange, and give it a mix. And here we have our color. If yours is reading a little more pink than peach, you can always add another speck of orange. Next, we're going to make a darker shade, so think a more intense kind of peach color that might verge more on, say, a salmon or a coral. So we're going to use more of our colors, so think larger specks, more of them. Just go in with your pink. That's where I'm going to be heaviest. And I'm going to do more of my red, and my orange. So here we have our color. I added another round of color to mine just to make sure it was dark enough that it reads differently than the first color we made. And you can see this one is a nice kind of coral, almost like a light salmon color, and that's really where we want to be. Next up, we're going to make a little blue. I want a little something kind of contrasting to go with my peaches. So I'm just going to give it a few specks of my royal and a teeny tiny speck. You can use either your pink or your red, just a little something to give it a hint of that periwinkle vibe. And I start out small, but you can always add more. And here we have our blue. I added just a little bit more of my pink to that, just to mute it a tiny touch more. You can see we have a nice soft shade. Next up, we're going to make some green. I'm going to do a couple of specks of my blue, a few of my yellow, maybe a little heavier on the yellow than the blue, and I'll give it just a tiny hint of either my red or my neon bright pink, just to help give it a similar feeling, a similar tone to my other colors. And here we have our finished green. You can see that just that tiny touch of red we used just muted it out a little bit, so it goes well with our other colors. Finally, we're going to make a little yellow. We just want a few specks of our yellow, and as before, you can use a little speck of your red or your pink just to give it a nice common thread. And this should give us a nice buttery yellow that maybe verges a little bit on being orange. And here we have our color. We're going to use 5 bags and tips for this little cupcake project. And you can see we've got our colors all loaded up and ready to go. Ours are 12-inch disposable, but you can use whatever you like and have on hand. First up, our darker color of peach is loaded into a bag with a number 123. Next, our lighter shade of peach is in a bag with a 125. We're using our blue with a number 104, the yellow with a number 3, and finally a green with a number 352. We're going to use a series of techniques. Most of these are pulled from both of our Camellia and our Open Camellia videos that we have in our Basic Flower series. So if you want really in-depth lessons on either of those flowers, you can check those out. For the center mounds, we're going to rock and rotate. So we're going to start at 90 degrees, squeeze a little wedge of frosting, and then we're going to rock the bag back to 45 degrees and spin. And that's going to give us a nice little cone or center mound there in the center. For some of them, we're just going to do it a single time. For some of them, we're going to layer it up. So we're going to go right on top of it and spin again just to build up a little height. For our petals, we're going to be doing some soft arcs. We'll be doing those both for our camellias and on some of our buds. And the general shape there is going to be that nice soft arc motion. We're also going to make some heart-shaped petals with our 125. And some of these are going to be bigger, so they'll be wider, and you might have a bit of a gap there in the base. And for some of them, we'll make the motion more kind of concise or short, and you'll see that gap disappear. We're going to make some wriggle centers with our 123 and 125 tips as well. And this will be a lot like putting the center petal on a rose, but instead of holding still, we're going to move the bag up and down just a little bit as we spin, and that's going to create this kind of little layered ruffle that looks like a bunch of really closed petals in the center. And we'll use this when we're making buds for our flowers. Support wedges. We'll be using our 125 and holding it straight up and down, and all we want to do is give it a nice little squeeze, and we'll just be making some support wedges when we're doing our open camellia for some of our petals to help kind of direct the flow of frosting and give it a lovely appearance. For our stamens, we'll be using our number 3 tip with our yellow, and we're going to squeeze a dot and pull up while we're still squeezing. The harder you squeeze, the longer these will be. And don't be afraid to make them nice and kind of wild and going in all directions. Dots. We'll also be using our number 3 and our yellow for these. It's the same as when we're starting our stamens, except here we're just going to squeeze, let it balloon out, stop, and give it a quick circle around to make a nice dot. And these will form the centers for our tiny blue blossoms. Leaves. We'll be using our 352 for these. One point touching, the other one straight up. The back of the bag is just going to be pointing in whichever direction we're going to pull our leaf. And we're going to squeeze and let it balloon out and then just wriggle to build up some length. And finally, teardrop petals. We'll be using our 104 and we'll just be making those nice, lovely teardrop shaped petals with it. Our Camellia Cupcake is going to be our first style. We're going to start with our bag with our 123 tip on it, so correct color of frosting, and we're going to make a little mound in the center, and that's going to give us a basis to build towards and a place to put those stamens on. Once we have that in there, we're going to go to the outside edge of our cupcake. We're going to pull those soft dark petals. You just want to make sure that the outside edge of the tip is up off the surface and kind of curls up. And we're just going to do those nice sweeping arcs. And if you want to, you can kind of start with your hand up about towards noon and pull over as you go. And that should give us a nice arc that kind of starts from the middle and goes around in a kind of lovely, pleasing way and gives us a nice soft curve without a blunt edge on the beginning, which will be nice. And then we want to just nest underneath the one before when we pull the next one. And this is going to give them that nice look like they're unfurling. When we get all the way around, it should take about 4 or 5 petals. Then we're going to move up a little bit. So think about moving the tip towards the center and just rotating that outside edge so it's up a little higher. And we're going to pull the next row. You might need to do a 3rd row, depends on how large your cupcakes are, how big you make your petals. But once we get to the center, we're going to make it so that tip is almost pointing straight up and down, and we're just going to do 3 really small little arcs so that they're kind of cupped up and standing up on end, and they'll have the center mound to help support them and the petals outside of them when we do this, which is important and why we're building from the outside in. And that'll give us that nice look like the center is just starting to open up. Once we do that, then we can go in the middle there and pipe our stamens. So I've got my bag with my 123, and I'm just going to start out right here in the center, give it a nice squeeze, rock it out, and then turn it around. And you can see I quickly enclose that nice little wedge of frosting with a little mound. Now it's time to start my petals. I want to make sure that the skinny end is kind of rocked up off the surface of my cupcake. I've got the back end of the bag pointing away from me, and I'm just going to pull a nice soft arc. Just rotate my cupcake a little bit while I'm moving my bag. Once we've got our first petal on there, let's start the second one right underneath it. And just take your time. curve each one around. Each one starting from the one underneath. And when we get back to the beginning, almost, and we get back to the beginning here, we can start underneath, and now we're going to pull on top. So as I'm going up, you might notice that I'll rock the bag a little bit so I don't disturb that first petal I made. And this sets me up to do my second row. Same method, just a little closer to the center. Tip is curved up more. And you'll notice as we go, the petals get a little shorter too. Those first few we did on the outside are much bigger. So when we get close to the center, we may need a few more just to fill in the gaps around that mound. And then I want to pipe my nice little enclosed centers. I just want to take my time and give myself a nice little enclosed center there to pipe my stamens in. I've grabbed my bag with my yellow and my number 3 tip, and now I'm just going to come in and put on some nice stamens. Just think about gently going in. We want to avoid our petals and just fill up that area. And if they stick out past the top of your petals a little bit, that's perfectly fine. We just want to fill in any little gaps we have and make them nice and long and going in all directions. So we have that little pop of yellow down there in the center just to kind of help set things off. For our open camellia, we want to start on the outside edge and do those nice big hearts. It'll probably take 5 or 6. And you're going to have some gaps, not only at the base of the petals, but also in the center, and that's perfectly fine. As we work our way in, we're going to do some little smaller petals that are kind of closer in, so think they're going to get kind of shorter in width. And then once we do that second row, we're going to start putting in some little support wedges. That way, when we do the petals that are kind of offset, they're going to kind of droop a little bit in the middle. And we're essentially just going to work till we go in and have basically filled up the center, and we have a nice volume, and we look like a beautiful open flower with a lot of petals. So your final amount of rows might vary a little bit based on how hard you squeeze, how quickly you move towards the center, and things such as that nature. But it's definitely going to take us a couple of rows of petals to get a nice, full, beautiful look. When we've pretty much filled up the entire center, we're going to go in and fill any last little gaps with those stamens using our number 3. Let's get started. I'm going to start on the outside edge. I've got my 125, and I'm just going to pipe some nice, large hearts. I'm going to take my time, perfectly fine if they have gaps at the base of the petal, one right next to the other. Right towards the edge of my cupcake, and you can see 3 of them gets me about halfway around. That's a nice spacing and a nice size for these. So we should be able to get one last one in here. If it overlaps a little bit, that's perfectly fine. We're going to do our second row, and for this one, we're going to do 3 heart-shaped petals. We're going to go a little closer to the center, rock the outside edge of that tip up just a tiny touch, and we're only going to do 3 of them, and we're going to do them offset between 2 of our other petals. So think about piping it on top of the seam between 2 of them. So a little closer to the center, a little tighter on the width, so you can see it starts to close in that, and we're going to skip. Basically, I like to think of it as starting in the void of 2 of them when I'm piping. And that should give you nice spacing for that second row. I'm going to come in between 2 of the petals on the second row. I'm just going to give myself little support wedges there. That's to kind of help force this next petal down into it. So I'm going to start by piping on top dip down for the dip in the heart, and then over. And this should kind of force that petal to ruffle and dip a little bit in the middle. So we're giving ourselves a little extra height there and a little extra ruffle in that petal by putting those support wedges next to each of those previous petals. So I'm going to go around, essentially doing another set of 3 petals. And this is going to help also build up the height of this flower. I've still got quite a bit of space where I can see Cupcake, so I'm just going to go ahead and repeat that process. And each time I go, I get a little closer to the center. They get a little bit narrower, a little bit tighter, and they'll help to fill up that space. And this will probably be my last row. And don't worry too much about getting towards the center and maybe knocking into your previous work, because we'll be covering that up with yellow by making stamens. I've got my bag with my yellow and my number 3 tip, and I'm just going to go down in here and start pulling some nice, beautiful stamens. And I just want to fill up this whole area. So think about pulling them up and also out. You want them to kind of hang over those petals. Nice, soft. Take your time and just fill up that area. And that should fill in the center of your cupcake and give you, again, a nice little pop of yellow in there to help set off all those beautiful pink ruffly petals. Our third design is a little more complex in that we're going to do some piping on our flower nail first, chill our flowers, and then place them on our cupcake. And we're going to use our bag of green, if you're wondering when that came into play, for this one to help attach everything and give us some little pops of color between our blooms. So we're going to pipe a nice kind of really tightly closed little bud with our darker color in our 123. You'll see we've got a little wriggle center there and just some regular little soft darks. And then with our 125, we'll do the same thing, little wriggle center, but when we do the petals on our bud, we're going to twist the back end of the bag out to give us petals that curve out on the top. And we'll go over that again when we do it on our flower nail. And you can see we've just got some really simple blossoms that are a little reminiscent because of their color of little kind of like individual blooms from a hydrangea. And I did a single one and a double one. So we're going to go ahead and pipe those on our nail as well. And I also kept my bag of my 125 on hand so that when I put my little bud on, I went and I piped some extra petals. And this gives us the look of a bud that's maybe just starting to open and kind of helped us fill up some of our space with some nice soft details. For our first bud, we're going to be using our darker shade of peach with our 123. We're going to do the same rock and rotate we did before on our cupcake, and we're just going to build it up a little extra height by going around a second time. Next, we're going to do our little wriggle center. So think about touching it, rotating your nail while wriggling up and down. So just a little motion, and you can see it gives us that nice little look like a bunch of tightly closed petals. Finally, we're going to start tip down towards the base of our nail. Pull some little soft arcs and just keep going around until you fully enclose that little center you made. It'll probably take 4 or 5 petals, but if it takes an extra one, that's perfectly fine. For our next bud, we're going to do one that's slightly different. We're going to use our 125. Start out the same, rock, rotate, build up a second layer, and then give it a nice little wriggle center. So same idea, slightly different finished look because of the difference in the tips. For our petals on this one, instead of our normal setup where we're at 45 degrees and 430, so think the back of the bag towards my right shoulder because I'm right-handed, I'm going to just turn it so the back of the bag is facing out towards 3 o'clock. This way, when I pipe my petals on, you can see it forces the frosting to curve over. And I'm just going to do some little double sets. So think one petal and then another one, just kind of offset a little bit. It'll probably take 4 or 5 of these little sets to go all the way around. And if the last one overlaps the first a little bit, that's perfectly fine. You can see that gives us a beautiful little kind of enclosed bud that gives us a look like those little petals are starting to curl open for us. Next up, we're going to pipe our little blue blossoms. We're going to start out by piping our teardrop petals. Just nice, normal. I like to do 3 of them flat, and the 4th one curve up just a little bit. So think instead of pulling along the surface like we normally do, I'm going to start out normal and then pull up and towards the center. If you're doing a single layer blossom, you can stop here and put the center on. If we're going to do a double layer, we're just going to go ahead and put another layer of petals right on top of the one before. Think just a little off to the side, so you get a hint of the one underneath. Whether you're making singles or doubles, you're going to finish it with a dot of yellow with your number 3 tip. We'll move these to our tray and put them in the fridge to chill like the rest, and I'm probably going to end up using 1 single and 1 double layer blossom for each of my cupcakes. We're going to get started on our cupcake, and I'm going to start with my darker peach bud. And I just want to come in with my green and make a nice little home for it. So just turn your cupcake however you need to get in there with your leaf tip and make a little spot. When you're ready, you can just peel them off the paper. Since they're chilled, they should be nice and firm, and I just want to get it in there right next to the edge. If you have any little gaps at the bottom of your bud, you can fill them in quickly by just pulling a little leaf up the side. This will help connect it to your cupcake and complete the little design on it while filling any little blemishes you might have on the sides of those blossoms. Next up, we're going to make a space for our lighter peach blossom. And so I'm going to do the same kind of thing. I'm going to come over here, just look at the approximate size. I'm going to put in some green. And then I'm going to take my bag with my lighter peach and I'm just going to put in some petals as well. So think about just some nice little teardrop shaped petals all around, even up the side over here. They don't have to be perfect. Just think about kind of covering up some of the area with them. And that should give us a nice spot to nestle this down in. And it gives it the look like it's just starting to kind of open up. Some of those little petals are kind of falling out. Once you've got it in place, you can even go in and put a few more on just to kind of connect everything together. So anywhere it looks like it might need something, just go in and pop a petal on. Just turn and rotate as you go. Next, I'm going to go in with my green. So anywhere I have a little spot where I need a little extra love, a little extra security, or I've got some cupcake showing through on the back, it's a great spot for some green. And then I'm going to start to fill in over here where I'm going to put on my little blue blossoms. So I basically just want to give them a nice home, a little cushion of green to sit on. And when you're ready, just go ahead and peel those off and place them on. So I've got a nice little spot down in there for my double, and I can attach my single in there. If you need to, you can even go in with your blue and just pipe a few little petals. I think just kind of invent the idea of a flower that might be underneath. And then just place that last one anywhere it works. And that gives us a beautiful little cupcake design. That's all for this lesson on our set of Camellia Cupcakes. If you're looking for more intense video lessons on either our regular Camellia or open Camellia, you can check out our flower series video on those. If you're looking for more information on the basics of flowers, we recommend checking out Yearly Membership, which now includes our latest certificate, which is one exclusively on flowers. We hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It truly supports our channel and helps us share more in-depth cake decorating lessons. Want to level up your skills? Our yearly membership has certificate programs from beginner and up. Learn more at cakedecoratingschool.com.